UFC Fight Night Vegas 41, Costa versus Vettori just took place, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my reaction and breakdown to every single fight on the card, and my overall event recap. It was a decent card overall, finished by an amazing main event at the end. Let's start with the early prelim opener of Jonathan Martinez versus Lzviad Lazvishvili. I took some time, I watched this one back, I didn't get to see it live. Jonathan Martinez just outstruck him slightly in the first 2 rounds. Lzviad took the fight on short notice, started to naturally slow down in the later rounds of this fight, and because of that, Jonathan Martinez had a very, very dominant 3rd round over Lzviad. One judge gave a round to Lzviad Lazvishvili. I guess I could see an argument for that, but I still believe that maybe Jonathan Martinez was doing the better of the 2 of them, but Lzviad had a relentless pace, a relentless pressure going for some of those takedowns, but you could see as the fight went on, especially the 2nd round onwards, as Lzviad started to fail more and more of those takedowns, it just got worse and worse for him. He was using energy that he wasn't getting any points from. And then overall, Jonathan Martinez, very good performance. The 3rd round was extremely dominant, put on a striking display in the 3rd. Great win by Jonathan Martinez. I got that one wrong. I got a lot of fights wrong this card, but it was a decent card. Moving on to another one that I watched live. Linvinha Souza versus Randa Markos. Oh yeah. Why are they so bad at fighting? It really does annoy me. Now, Randa Markos gets the win over Linvinha Souza. I thought Linvinha Souza was a lock, because she was a lock. She out-grappled Randa Markos in the 1st round, had a couple of very, very close submission attempts, a rear naked choke at one point. I feel like an armbar at one point as well, like a straight armbar she almost had in at one point. Very dangerous submission attempts in the 1st round, but then after that, Linvinha Souza hated being on top. No idea why. Really no idea why, but Linvinha Souza would basically, in certain scrambles, throw herself on bottom, even though she had maybe the better position at the time. She would find any way she possibly could of being on bottom. Randa Markos outstruck her on the feet. It was a very clear win for Randa Markos. Even in the 1st round, you could give that to her, but she definitely won the 2nd and 3rd. But man, I've never seen Linvinha Souza. I've never seen a person just dive on bottom that much since Neil Magny versus fucking Michael Chiesa. Diving on bottom in certain positions. Pulling guard. You have a whizzer. You're against the cage. You can stand up from this position. But because she's a BJJ black belt, she thinks she's actually good. But you could be a black belt at one gym and a fucking white belt at another gym, honestly. Black belts mean nothing unless I know who you fucking got it from. Linvinha Souza. No idea. Moving on up the card, Jeff Molina versus Daniel Lacerda. Now, I picked Jeff Molina to win this one. He got the job done by TKO in the 2nd round. I didn't even think he would get a finish. But man, I'll tell you this. Daniel Lacerda, or Daniel Da Silva, as he changed his name to. He's really good. He looked really, really good in that 1st round. And Jeff Molina was in all kinds of trouble as that fight went on. Very, very close submission attempts from Daniel Da Silva as well. I mean, it was great. I gave the 1st round maybe to Jeff Molina, even though he was getting beaten on the feet early, because he ended it very strong, and it was like a Brian Ortega, Alexander Volkanovski round 3 situation where Daniel Da Silva is on the ground, he's looking like he's out of it, but he gets back up, gets back to his stall. The 2nd round came around, Daniel Da Silva had a little bit of success, had a couple of attempts at submissions. This time he just lost a lot of the energy. He didn't have the same pop in his shots, he didn't have the same explosiveness in his submission attempts, and Jeff Molina eventually took the positional control, pounded him out from the back control, and got the job done by TKO in round 2. Great performance by Jeff Molina. But Daniel Da Silva, man, really impressed me. On the feet in the 1st round, he was outstriking Jeff Molina. On the ground, his transitions, his jiu-jitsu was amazing. He had armbar attempts, triangle attempts, leg lock attempts. At one point, he was going for a leg, but Jeff Molina managed to scramble out of all of those positions, knocked down Daniel Da Silva in the 2nd round, and put him away quite badly. Great performance by both. Jeff Molina showed me that he's got good cardio. He can escape bad positions. He can take a couple of good shots on the feet, because Lacerda, or Da Silva, sorry, whatever his fucking name is, landed a lot of good body kicks in that fight. But yeah, great performance by both. Jeff Molina catches him in the 2nd round, puts him down, finishes him off. Great job by Jeff Molina. Moving on up the card, Khama Worthy versus Jai Herbert. Jai Herbert gets a 1st round KO. I picked him to win this one by 1st round KO. He's actually really good, and I hate that he doesn't have a chin. Why can't they all have Marvin Vettori chins? If Jai Herbert had Marvin Vettori's chin, he beats Trinaldo. He'd probably still get out-grappled by Moicano, but still, he beats a lot more people than he would now because his chin is worrying at times. But man, he's so good on the feet when he lands his shots and gets going, because the combination he was finishing, Khama Worthy was brutal. Close fight while it lasted at the start of the fight. Both guys trading leg kicks back and forth. Jai Herbert slightly getting the better of the stand-up exchange, landing a couple of clean shots on the guard, looping some hooks around the guard to land on the ear of Khama Worthy. They were very good shots. Khama Worthy landed a couple of good shots of his own, but Jai Herbert took them well, came back, saw his moment, landed the big shot, put down Khama Worthy, and then just finished him off on the ground. It was a bit of a weird one of a stoppage because it was a weird angle for the referee, but it was a good stoppage. Shovel hook in the face out of Khama Worthy. Very debilitating stoppage by Jai Herbert against the cage originally. Finishes him off with ground and pound, as I said he would. Jai Herbert gets it done by first round KO, and I'm glad because he's 33 years of age. He's been given savages his entire career. Trinaldo in his debut. Renato Moicano in his second fight when he's coming off a fucking loss. And he still manages to get a win here. I'm glad, because otherwise his career would probably be over. Good win against Khama Worthy from Jai Herbert. Moving on up the card. Jamie Pickett versus Laureano Staropoli. Do I even dignify it with a response? Jamie Pickett won the fight. Watch this one back as well. Jamie Pickett won the fight. He was landing some good knees in the clinch that I wasn't really considering when I was watching the fight, because it was just a clinch fest against the cage the majority of the time. I thought that Laureano Staropoli, even at range, was kind of landing the better shots out of the two of them, in all honesty. Like, he was landing clean hooks on the chin of Jamie Pickett. Jamie Pickett would occasionally land a decent shot, but the majority of them would miss in the fight. But you know what? They both didn't look too great. Jamie Pickett got the job done because he pushed. I don't even know. I don't know. I don't know how he won. He won because on stats, he landed more strikes and more total strikes and stuff like that. But, like, I can't even think of a moment where, like, he did something great. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those fights where even though a winner won and he clearly won, what did you do? You kind of just need Laureano Staropoli a couple of times when your back was against a cage. Other than that, he had a couple of moments where he took down Laureano. There you go. He took down Laureano Staropoli, had his back, or had one hook in on his back at one moment. This is what we're talking about to judge the fight. It shows you how boring the fucking fight was. Let's move on to another fight on the card, which was Tabatha Ricci versus Maria de Oliveira. I picked Maria de Oliveira to win. Tabatha Ricci got this one done. Just the takedowns, too much. I thought Maria de Oliveira is much better on the feet than her. I assumed she was going to be much better on the feet, and she honestly was way better on the feet than Tabatha Ricci. Outlanded her in the first round, 28-21, but you know what? Tabatha Ricci takes her down, ends on top, lands a couple of good shots. Maria de Oliveira just doesn't have the takedown defense. Ricci gets a takedown every round, it feels like. Maria de Oliveira actually won on strikes in the first and the third round, significantly and totally. So honestly, it was a close fight, in all honesty. I thought it was a good underdog pick. She did okay compared to the massive underdog she was. But Tabatha Ricci, great takedowns. Great penetration on the takedowns. Good double legs. Always got Maria de Oliveira to the ground whenever she did. She almost had an armbar in the first round. Great timing. Great takedowns. Decent ground and pound. Great ass. Moving on to another fight that happened on the card, which was Mason Jones versus David Onama. I almost picked David Onama as an underdog here because I was worried about Mason Jones, because David Onama is a very good stand-up fighter, but he showed in the grappling against a bigger opponent in Mason Jones, who probably had a good maybe 5 pounds of solid mass on David Onama. I mean, David Onama is not a small featherweight by any means. He looked like he could be a lightweight, in all honesty, but Mason Jones, bigger guy, won the grappling exchanges of the fight. I thought he won round 1 and 3 very clearly, but round 2, I guess, could go to David Onama, but the grappling of Mason Jones was just too much. He was winning the grappling exchanges. 8 of 14 takedowns he got. Not a single takedown landed for David Onama. Onama would land some good shots on the feet and catch Mason Jones here and there, but then Jones would just throw him to the ground like a fucking toddler. And I know that takedowns don't really mean too much, but when you're throwing them around the way Mason Jones was, they do mean a bit, you know what I mean? And he did win the first round and the third round anyway. Landed good shots of his own on the feet as well. Good shots. Rocked David Onama in the first round with a jab, I believe it was. Landed good shots to the body, to the head, uppercuts in the clinch. But David Onama's tough, man. He kept out there. He always scrambled. But Mason Jones had his back, was trying some submission attempts, had his mounts, had a lot of good positions on him, was controlling those positions very well, had 9 minutes of control time out of a 15-minute fight. So Mason Jones gets the job done, showing off his grappling game. But man, Onama's going to be a problem at featherweight. That's all I know. Moving on up the card, Park Jun-Yong versus Gregory Rodriguez. Oh my dear God. This got fight of the night. I'm glad Park Jun-Yong got a nice little bonus. I thought he was going to win for a second. I picked him to win this one. I thought he would come back in the later rounds and get the job done. But man, Gregory Rodriguez is an explosive man. It looked like Park Jun-Yong was about to beat the shit out of him and finish him. But he never went to the body. He swung for the head over and over again, left himself vulnerable, never dug deep to go to the body and make sure that Gregory Rodriguez never recovered from being exhausted and tired. And Gregory Rodriguez, in the first round, he was explosive. He had the back of Jun-Yong Park, and he won the moments there, but he didn't really have any too close submission attempts. But, you know, Jun-Yong Park reversed on the ground. He stayed in a safe position. He was very good off of his back. Iron Turtle, very good off of his back, or actually terrible off of his back, surely, if they live up to the name. But good second round, started to turn it around, cracked Rodriguez on the feet. I thought, oh my god, I'm going to be a genius and make a couple of hundred fucking pounds that you lost me, Park Jun-Yong, because that was the one it was dependent on. Underdog pick. Fucked me up. All good though. No problem. It's no problem. Happy with it. Gregory Rodriguez is the most explosive out of nowhere man I've ever seen in the cage. I'm not over exaggerating that. He's on something. I don't know what he's on. This guy's on something. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they can test for it yet. This guy is on something. I've never seen a more explosive man. And he's old. He's not that old, actually. He's only 29, but he looks about 50. Steroids can do that to you. I feel like he's on something. I know I can give him credit. The way he threw Jun-Yong Park to the ground, I've never seen a faster slam in my life. It was the most brutal slam I've seen. Absolutely helpless. Jun-Yong Park flung through the air and slammed to the canvas within about 1 second of touching the clinch with Gregory Rodriguez. Then he landed a big KO blow at the end, came back, got the finish. Great fight of the night performance. But man, I've never seen someone so exhausted go from completely exhausted and dead to landing vicious KO blows. Other than maybe Paulo Costa, I guess. Another Brazilian who's really, really shredded. Good win from Gregory Rodriguez. Moving on to another fight on the card, which was on the main card. Nikolai Negumereanu versus EK Villanueva. I can talk about this. I picked Nikolai to win by KO in the early rounds. He got it done in round 1. Back of the head shots, though. I watched it back, though. I've watched it back in slow motion. It was like a Poirier-McGregor thing, except the finishing blows. If EK Villanueva didn't cover up his head, they would have been clean back of the head shots from Nikolai Negumereanu, and it would have been maybe a disqualification. Because the last two that definitely hit the back of the head and were aimed at the back of the head were blocked, I think that saved Nikolai here and got him the KO win. He won by KO, of course, in the first round. He landed a good shot originally. I mean, he rocked EK Villanueva quite badly on the feet. Almost got himself KO'd as well with his really bad striking defense because his chin was wide open himself. Landed good shots. Landed a punch sort of right behind here, right on the back of the ear. Close to the back of the head, but it's not his fault because he's in front of EK Villanueva. It was EK Villanueva ducking into the punch, moving his head forward and giving up that space behind his head. Got put down badly. Got finished off. But there were a couple of unclean shots to the fucking back of the head. But it was finished anyway. And the shot that did land behind there anyway was legal. But clean up your fucking finishing, you retard. Because you're going to lose a fight for yourself by doing that shit. And that's the worst way to have a winner ever. If EK Villanueva got his hand raised there and this prospect lost, that'd be shit. Lucky the last 2 shots were blocked. But that is brutal. And fuck him. Because one of those shots to the back of the head can kill someone. He did graze it once with a hammer fist. The other ones to the side of the ear. But the last 2 were the ones that were to the back of the head. But they were blocked. Very lucky for Nikolai Negumereanu. Moving on up the card. Francisco Trinaldo versus Dwight Grant. How did they come up with a score for Trinaldo? I don't understand. I thought it was a draw, especially with the point deduction. I don't know why they gave a point deduction so early, but that was a theme of the night, as you'll see as we move on. But they gave a point deduction because he'd already been warned about closing his fist, and he ended up eye-poking Dwight Grant quite badly, and he was on the ground for a bit, and I thought maybe the fight's going to be stopped here. But Dwight Grant continued. Round 3 was clear as day, Francisco Trinaldo. Dominant round 3. Round 1 was clear as day to Francisco Trinaldo, in my opinion, as well. I mean, even though Dwight Grant landed more shots, Trinaldo landed shots that wobbled Dwight Grant in certain moments of that round. He would land a big shot, Grant's legs would go funny. He would start immediately backpedaling against the cage and trying to get away from Trinaldo. Trinaldo would land another big shot a minute later that would send jolts through the legs of Dwight Grant. He would go jelly-legged over for a bit. Not too wobbly like some guy on the Contender Series that lost to Jimmy Crute, if you remember him. But he did go a bit weird-legged. moved backwards, hasted away, and those powerful shots gave Trinaldo the first round, gave him the third round. I could have given him the second round flat. I actually don't mind them giving a scorecard to Trinaldo, in all honesty. In round 2, though, Dwight Grant landed a punch, and if he didn't shoot a takedown afterwards, it would have counted as a knockdown. Straight up, it would have counted as a knockdown. Trinaldo goes for a head kick. Grant lands a right hand over the top as he throws it, clips him on the chin. Down goes Francisco Trinaldo. Other than that, in round 2, Trinaldo won the round, so I could still see the judges giving him that round anyway, but I think Dwight Grant technically did get a knockdown in that round, even though Trinaldo's got a great chin and immediately recovered. If Grant never shot that takedown after that big right hand and just watched Trinaldo sink to the floor, he would have got a knockdown and maybe won this fight or got a draw for himself. Oh well, moving on, Trinaldo gets the win, still doing the damn thing at 43 years of age. Moving on up the card, Alex Caceres versus Seung Woo Choi. Oh my god, you vegan parlay killer, you. I forgot about that. Dude, Seung Woo Choi is so good, you know. Caceres is not going to be a champion. It was a good performance by Caceres. You know, he had decent moments in round 1, landed a couple of head kicks at one point, I believe. Maybe a side kick to the face landed at one point as well. Round 2, Seung Woo Choi lands a vicious body kick, throws a right hand afterwards. Caceres is hunched over from the body kick over to the left. Because of that, Seung Woo Choi's right hand goes over his shoulder, and then all of a sudden he's basically given the back to Alex Caceres, who immediately jumps on, doesn't need an invitation, takes the back, puts the hooks in, gets the rear naked choke on Seung Woo Choi. It was going so well for Seung Woo Choi. Chopping at the legs of Caceres, beating the fuck out of him in round 1, smashing him about, dropping him, almost dropped him at the end of round 1 as well. He is the... He, 9 times out of 10, he whoops up Caceres. But because of MMA, he fucking doesn't whoop up Caceres. So whatever. Also, he landed an illegal knee in round 1, so that didn't help him either, to be fair. So, dropped him badly. Landed an illegal knee afterwards. I'm making a video at some point about how illegal knees need to be stopped. You should be able to knee someone when they're on one knee. I understand if they are on their back on the ground and you can't knee them in the face. I really do understand that. But when they're up on the knees, that should not be a safe position in MMA. I hate that so much. I hate that Aljo said in his interview after his fight with Yan that, oh, I felt like I was safe on my knees. This is a fight sport. Great win by Caceres. He got the win. He got the submission in the second round. Really good win. He made $250,000. I think he made $240,000 as well. So, $240,000 in dollars. Good win from Caceres. He got the performance bonus. Very, very good. But illegal knees should not exist in this sport. In that moment where they're on their knees and they're looking up at you, that is the most cowardly position you can ever be in a fight, ever. On your knees. Think about that metaphorically. On your knees, looking up at your opponent, grabbing onto them. Oh my god. That is the most cowardly and pathetic and bitch vegan position you can ever be in a fight ever. Or in any situation. You take a knee for something, it ain't right. You know what I mean? If you have to take a knee for something, it ain't right. If you're on your knees for something, it ain't right. It's just a very soft, cucky, lame position to be in. But it's the only position that's rewarded in MMA. Why? It's the most pathetic position ever in mankind's history. But it's the only position that's rewarded and considered safe. You should be punished for being in that position. On your knees, moving on. I'm just having my own rant about the knee situation. It should be allowed in that situation. Moving on up the card to another fight that occurred. Or did it? Jessica Rose Clark versus Joselyne Edwards. Jessica Rose Clark said in her interviews that she was coming for blood. She's coming to really take out some damage on Joselyne Edwards. And honestly, on the stats, other than total strikes, I mean, Joselyne Edwards, if Jessica Rose Clark wasn't in mount, Joselyne Edwards, if she just total strikes on the ground off of her back a little bit, she could have won this fight, man. She could have won this fight. I picked her as an underdog. 9-3 in the first round on significant strikes. Landed more total strikes as well off of her back. 11-9 in round 2 to Joselyne Edwards on significant strikes. Landed more total strikes off of her back. 10-6 in round 3 on significant strikes. Landed more total strikes off of her back. Landed more to the head. Rocked Rose Clark at one point. Made it look like she was tired at one point as well. But Rose Clark, what did she do? She got in half guard. And she laid there for the whole fucking fight. Full mount. Time to start pounding out Joselyne Edwards and get a finish. Laid there in full mount like it was full guard. She trekked full mount like it was full guard. Laying there on top of Joselyne Edwards, who's helpless on bottom, who hasn't been able to get up yet in the fight. Really bad takedown defense. She's laying there on top. Rose Clark, never put her on the main card again. That was the most boring shit I've ever watched in my life. Moving on to the co-main events. Grant Dawson versus Ricky Glenn. I picked Grant Dawson to win. Not a good look for him losing to Ricky Glenn or going to a draw of Ricky Glenn. And there was controversy at the end as well. One judge gave the fight to Grant Dawson. 2 judges gave it a draw. I gave it a draw. I didn't think round 1 was a 10-8 for Grant Dawson, but honestly, I could see an argument for it under the new scoring because he had his back for 4 fucking minutes and he was landing good shots the whole fucking round and trying for a rear naked choke the whole round as well. So, I understand the argument that maybe Dawson could get a 10-8 round in round 1, but he didn't. I don't think he did. I don't think he did enough ground and pound. I think if he would have ended the last 10 seconds landing big shots on Ricky Glenn, it would have been a 10-8 round for himself. He's going to bite himself about that later. He won the first round. He won the second round. The third round was a 10-8 round for Rick Glenn. He wasn't out at the end of the fight, though. He was exhausted. I need that to be mentioned. People are telling me right now, dude, Grant Dawson was out. Look at it again. He was out. He didn't know where he was. Not the case whatsoever. He was exhausted and 10-8 beaten up. Like, he was beaten up to a 10-8 round. And it wasn't just from submission attempts, although that last submission attempt did solidify the 10-8 round for Rick Glenn. The ground and pound is what made it such a dominant round. He took so many big shots in that round. Massive ones, behind the ear on the ground, over and over again. He's trying to fight out of it. He finds himself in a dash choke. He's got his thumbs up to the referee. The round's over. First of all, Rick Glenn doesn't let go straight away, but he does eventually let go, and Dawson sort of like flops his head to the arm of Rick Glenn. But no one who's out cold goes from that position on the arm of Rick Glenn to sitting up and going, oh, we're good, and then just sort of just flops backward with his arms out like, I'm exhausted right now. That's what I saw from it. I don't think it should have been a finish. I don't think he was out cold. I disagree with that completely. But he was badly beaten up in the third round. He was exhausted in the third round as well because he failed so many takedowns in round 3. And he looked like he was tired. But as soon as he heard that they were talking about the fact that he's out, he popped up. He went, I'm not out. I'm not out. So he wasn't out, I don't think. He wasn't completely asleep at the end of the fight. He got right up. He looked up and he just thought, fuck, I'm exhausted here. You know, I'm just going to fucking lay back. I've done what I can here. I've somehow survived this round in a very bad position. Good fight from Ricky Glenn, though, and a really shitty performance by Grant Dawson. He looks like shit now. Rick Glenn is basically almost beating you if there's no limit of a round in round 3. Another prospect ain't going to be shit. Just like Seung Woo Choi. They lose to a fighter who's never going to be a champion. Just like Caceres and Ricky Glenn. Moving on up the card. Paulo Costa versus Marvin Vettori. Fight of the year. Paulo Costa. Amazing performance, by the way. Amazing performance. Marvin Vettori, amazing performance too. We just heard that Marvin Vettori weighed in at about 207 pounds. Paulo Costa weighed in about 220 or over. He had a massive size advantage on Marvin Vettori. And the fact that he weighed 220. He never had any intention of making 185 at all. Never had any intention of making 185. He said he had a torn bicep in the post-fight speech. You didn't. You were throwing punches like a madman. You were looking great. He looked the best he's ever looked. There's no way he had a torn bicep. There's no way he was injured in any way. I think he came in fully healthy, fully ready for a fight, but he tried to play the game, which was, I'm going to act like I can't make weight, be 220 fucking pounds. You don't, if you ever have any idea of making weight, you'd want to get down to 210. Even if you're Paulo Costa, 213, 212, cut from there. The fact that he was 220 in the cage, and looked way bigger as well by far, he didn't even try and make weight. He wanted to beat Marvin Vettori, get all of the bragging rights, not lose, just to avoid humiliation. But he didn't get a humiliation. He had an amazing performance. They went back and forth non-stop. The point deduction was stupid, but I still give the fight to Marvin Vettori at least 3 of those rounds pretty clearly. Round 1, round 3, and round 4. Marvin Vettori won the fight, man, and he has one of the best chins you'll ever see in your life, one of the best bodies you'll ever see in your life, not aesthetically. I'm saying just toughness-wise. I've never seen someone take so many finishing blows and just ignore them like Marvin Vettori. Amazing performance by Marvin against a guy who had about 15 pounds on him. Paulo Costa, great performance as well. I'm telling you, he beats 90% of light heavyweights. He beats nearly every middleweight. I honestly, and I'm going to say this is a hot take at the end here, I know the weight cut would change how good he is, so maybe it wouldn't be the same Paulo Costa as we saw tonight. I genuinely think we saw the best Paulo Costa ever tonight. He looked amazing. He had 5-round cardio. He had cardio in the 5th round. At light heavyweight, he might beat everyone. I don't think he beats Rakic, Prohaska, Reyes, or not Reyes, Rakic, Prohaska, Blachowicz. But I reckon maybe he could beat all of them. Seriously, think about Paulo Costa's performance at light heavyweight. I think Marvin could have a chance. I think because Adesanya's so... He's not small, but he's not as big as Marvin and Paulo Costa because he still cuts weight from like 203 pounds down to 185 in his own fucking words before you correct me. So, he's not small, but he just doesn't have the grappling base that Paulo Costa and Marvin do. So he's always going to have that fear of being taken down or the ability for a guy to take him down. I think Paulo and Marvin could fit right in at light heavyweight. The other guys that have moved up, I didn't think that way, like Weidman and Jacare, but in hindsight, Jacare took Jan Blachowicz to a split decision. I know he shouldn't have had a split decision, it should have been a clear win for Jan Blachowicz, but still, he took Jan Blachowicz to a decision win for Blachowicz. So, I think Marvin and Paulo could do very well at light heavyweight. I think Marvin will continue to do well at middleweight and beat a lot of contenders. But even at middleweight for Paulo Costa, he beats Cannonier in my opinion. I reckon he would obliterate shitty fucking Brunson because he has good takedown defense, and he would definitely stuff the takedowns of Brunson and annihilate that shit fighter. Sorry, I'm still in turmoil. But Paulo Costa beats every middleweight, not named Adesanya and Vettori, and Whittaker. But Whittaker's really small, and he's not got a granite chin, and he doesn't really deal with pressure too well. I'm just saying, I know there's a lot of Whittaker fans out there, but that Paulo Costa... I know that's not fair because he's way bigger, but still. Whittaker's got a tough fight there, am I wrong? Great performance by both. Marvin Vettori did better, won the fight overall. Like and subscribe, thank you for watching. Click that button up there, toodle pip, I'll see you later. Goodbye for now.